Hey, Dave D here from GKIC. 17 years ago, somebody changed my life. I saw him speak, and everything changed. I went from poor to wealthy. And now you're going to meet him, and he's going to be revealing secrets that could change your life as well. Now, the reason we're out here in the middle of nowhere is the secrets he's about to reveal are so powerful that they could be dangerous if held in the wrong hands. So, you're about to learn 7 psychological triggers that you can fire off at will to get your customers, your clients, or your patients to buy more, and to buy more now. He should be here any minute. Right on time, of course. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Sorry we were meeting in such an obscure place, but as I explained, this information is so powerful.
I have in my formerly scotch-stained fingers the secret code.
Well, Dan, I'm glad you brought the answers because here
You have the questions.
I have the questions. Seriously, the first question I want to ask you, though, is how long have you been actually doing this thing? How long have you been writing sales messages and sales copy and for videos and infomercials and all that kind of stuff?
I wrote the first copy for money that I actually got money for in 1971.
Wow.
For real, like on an ongoing basis, right around 1975. Wow. So it's still a long time.
Wow. So what are some of the biggest successes?
We were writing internet presentations, when you had to use a flashlight behind a piece and show it to people one at a time.
Is that how you did it?
Yeah, that's right.
They did it, and they still converted tremendously well because of the 7 secrets contained on that piece of paper.
That's exactly
right there. So what are some of your biggest successes that you've had?
Well, quite a few speeches for self or other speakers that have generated $1 million or more.
Well, you did the magnetic marketing one that you crafted, basically using seriously what
Yes.
we're going to talk about here. That was $1 million a year.
Yeah, I actually stopped counting sales letters that have produced for self or clients $1 million or more, but there's at least 100 of them, maybe more. There are print ads who have had 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years of life without having to be altered that run or ran in multiple magazines month after month after month after month. There's currently online presentations that are generating over $100,000 a month or more that haven't been altered in at least 3 years.
Wow.
That are driven to by direct mail.
Wow. See, I think a lot of people would say, well, wait a minute, online presentations. Well, Dan Kennedy's not an online guy. How does that jive with writing sales messages?
I mean, look, so first of all, I always tell people that I don't have to chop down a tree and go to a sawmill and see how the hell paper's made, in order to do direct mail. I mean, the mechanics of the internet are quite irrelevant to me any more than the mechanics of the inside of the camera. And now I happen to know how to sit in a post-production booth and edit because I've done a lot of it in the infomercial business, but I wouldn't have to in order to create the sales copy for the script that we were going to deliver via video. And then it doesn't matter really whether the video is in a VHS shell, it's on a DVD, it's online, at a website, it's shown in a movie theater. What difference does it make, right? And so people get themselves all bollocksed up with this media is different, kind of like my business is different.
And it's not.
But presentation structure, presentation triggers, elements that drive response, are relatively universal.
Right. Your friend, the late Gary Halbert, and the self-proclaimed greatest copywriter of all time, said any problem can be solved with one good sales letter. Any problem can be solved by one good sale. What is that? What did he mean by that?
Well, it's truer than false. It means that the ability to communicate in a persuasive, influential manner, and the ability to translate that into media. So Halbert would probably amend it today to be complete, to say sales letter, video, etc. But I have a friend, for example, who in the late 70s or 80s was turned down by his own doctor and for virtually every heart specialist in his area for a heart transplant. And as George put it, I did what I always did when
George Douglas, right?
Presented with a problem. I went to the library and I found a librarian who found a list for me of hospitals and doctors that did difficult cases. And then I went home and wrote a great big sales letter to them about why me. And we FedExed it out, and 4 called, and I went and visited with all 4, and 1 took me, and I got a heart.
Wow.
So I think Halbert was more right than wrong.
Right.
And conversely, a lot of people kind of leap into problem solving, whether with their employees, their customers in their marketplace, their lenders and financiers, without really crafting a properly structured and compelling message.
Right.
And then they don't get the results, that they want.
At an event that you literally just did in parts that were very close to here, where you did a presentation on crafting a presentation, you talked about people going and doing the Shark Tank, going to pitch in the Shark Tank.
It's a perfect
to show
example.
The Shark Tank.
If you watch that show, you will see at least a third, probably closer to a half, who it's obvious that they have not really prepared, practiced, modularized their presentation and their answers to likely questions. So you prompt me with a question, I know what I'm going to say about that. They are caught flat-footed. And they have gone in often with the wrong hook. In some cases, based on their need, oh man, if we don't get, or their entitlement, oh, we've all worked very hard and we've slept on the floor and we gave up our jobs, which has nothing, to do with persuading a venture capitalist to invest money in you. It's nice to know that you'll work, but, small part of this equation. And so here's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You get 1 shot. That's all you get, right? There's been 1 case. Shark Tank's been on the air now for 5 years. I think somebody's come back.
The wine guy.
Came back for a second bite of the apple.
And he was a jerk that time, too.
Well, that's right. That's right. He just failed differently. But when you realize how important that shot is, not to have anticipated what you might be asked and then have structured. It's got to be short, it's got to be concise, but it's still got to have all the elements that drive to a yes. Not to have prepared that, practiced it, fooled around with it until you really felt good about it. It's really quite remarkable that people don't do it.
Yeah, your friend John Carlton, who we're going to talk about in another location, in another video, talks about gun-to-the-head copywriting. And so it's not only just when you have that one-time opportunity, it's really when you're writing any piece of copy. And again, I want the folks to know that, we mentioned it, but I want to make sure this is very clear. This isn't just about selling to a group or selling one-on-one or selling in a sales letter or selling on a video or selling. It's all of it, right? This is crafting powerful sales messages.
Message is message. Are there nuances about what you do in different media? Yes. But the drivers of a message that moves someone not just to liking it, remembering it, having a reaction to it, but to taking an action, buying now, responding now, scheduling an appointment now. Those drivers are pretty universal.
Right.
They are the same, really, regardless of how we're going to deliver them to an audience.
Right. Now we're going to talk about the 7 triggers that, quite frankly, I've never heard and I've studied, as you know, tons of copywriters. I've never heard anyone talk about these 7 triggers. And they are truly, I mean, we were kind of joking about, we need to do this in an undisclosed location, but the truth is that these are really powerful and they're a little bit controversial too. So we're going to get to
some.
Yeah, they really are. We're going to get to those in a minute. But I've heard you say that most sales messages are so generic that they don't move people to buy. They're so generic. What do you mean by that?
Well, no matter how similar we are, demographics, age, gender, etc., no matter how similar we are in occupation, the way we make our living, we still wake up every morning with very different agendas, interests, pressing matters, and so we all think that we are different, right? That we are unique in the same way that people think their businesses are different. They think that their life is different, their needs are different, whatever. So the broader the message you put in front of people, and a broad product-centric message sort of double sins.
Right. Which everybody does.
So a big, broad weight loss message,
right?
Lose 2 dress sizes or 2 waist sizes in 28 days, right? Yes, anybody that's overweight could conceivably respond to that message, but we can find 4 identical women who are all an identical number of inches and pounds overweight, are the same age, we almost can't tell them apart.
Right.
And one is worried about her husband that's 10 years younger than she is and his wandering eye and her weight gain, and that's what's on her mind today.
Right.
The other one is thinking about the class reunion that's coming up in 2 months.
That's right.
And how she wants to stick it up Cindy's butt, who tormented her 30 years ago in high school, right? And the last thing she wants to do is wind up there looking a little pudgy.
Right.
The third one is really concerned about health, right? Her last checkup wasn't so good. The doc's on her about her cholesterol.
Right.
So every one of those 4 people has different motives for why they might want to lose X amount of pounds in X amount of days. So the tighter we can get with that message to that person, the better our results are going to be. And if you look at most marketing messages, they are cast very, very broadly, very, very generically. And the really sad part about that is that an increasing array of media allows us to do an increasing amount of targeting more effectively and easier and cheaper than like ever, and then people don't take advantage of it. So Facebook's a very targeted media, and you see people using it to drive everybody to one website with one generic message. How insane is this? People actually will tell you which of those 4 motives are meaningful to them at this moment. And then instead of 4 landing pages and 4 messages and 4 testimonials, no, let's tell them all about the whiz-bang herb from the left side of the volcano that's in our pill.
Right, yeah. And again, so if somebody just took what you just told them right now, that's so valuable. If somebody just has one message, one generic message going out, and with websites, they're cheap. It's insane not to do it. I mean, the old direct response marketers would go crazy.
Well, there was some media that, generally speaking, say a TV infomercial, very hard to do this. Right? TV's it's called broadcast for a reason, right? Radio, a little more, because the stations you might advertise on tend to have tighter interests. Okay? But it's called broadcast for a reason. Direct mail, you can narrowcast. Painful, as you said, a little costlier, but it can be done, and it is done, and it should be done, right? But everything now online allows you to do it essentially for nominal extra cost and nominal pain.
So let's talk about, first of all, I want to ask you just to tell us what the 7 triggers are. So now that we've got our messages, now we've got to put in the psychological aspects. And as you know, I love this stuff. This is incredible. The 7 triggers, what they are, and then before we get into each one, what do they do for us?
Okay, so the big drivers, the things that, I mean, there's 50, but the things that I try and make sure to put as many of them as possible to work in a given message are as follows.
Okay.
One is shame. Right? And as you said, you use controversial. Some people are squeamish about, manipulating these issues. But one is shame, because nobody wants to be ashamed of themselves, or ashamed of the car they drive, or ashamed of the home they live in, or ashamed of the job they have, or ashamed of being overweight, the physical condition they're in, right? We say nobody wants to live in loser town. Okay. So when you call somebody out on this, it's a very powerful thing. The second one, not necessarily, by the way, in order, is emotional pain. So there's practical pain, right? I don't have enough money,
right?
And my car is being repoed, or my landlord is evicting me. That's practical pain, right? But it is the emotional attachment to those conditions that either move a person or do not move a person.
Like, for example, the dentist who's not making enough money, and his wife is like, "Hey, you're a dentist, you're a doctor. Look at my brother-in-law is a cardiac surgeon. Look at his,
Worse, my brother-in-law is a plumber.
Oh,
and he's out earning you.
Right.
So, it's time for everybody to kick in, because mom needs to go into assisted living, and the plumber can afford to kick more into the pot than us, and you're a damn dentist. How can this be, right? So now we start to attach emotional pain, right? And people are often not moved by practical pain.
Right.
They will sit and be stupid and be fat and be broke and not be moved to do much about it.
Right.
It is only when it becomes intensely personal and emotional it tends to move people. Third is anger or rage and resentment. So we say everybody's mad at somebody, right? And everybody feels they've been shortchanged by somebody. Everybody is resentful of something. And, so all political issues are driven by this. People's reaction, for example, to legal immigration and to illegal immigration is really often about they're taking my jobs, even though they're taking jobs you would never do.
Right.
So I mean, every political issue that drives huge numbers of people ties to anger and resentment.
So do you set up an enemy? Is that one of the
well,
ways to do it?
that's certainly, because if your enemy is my enemy, now we're buddies, right?
Right.
So, but you don't have to set it up so much as just remind people of it, okay? Because see, they are already mad at somebody, okay? The question is who, and how can we align our sales message to where they already are in relation to this person.
Was it, and I never get the copywriter right or the marketer right, enter the conversation. Was that Caples or
Robert Collier?
Robert Collier.
Enter the conversation.
That's what you're talking. You're saying enter the anger that's already inside of them.
Exactly
that's what you're saying, right?
The NLP term is saying, exactly. And so, when you raise funds politically, if you raise them for a liberal politician or a liberal cause, there are already people and things that liberal donors are mad at. You just have to now poke that and make them madder and position you on the same side. If we go to the conservative side, there's people. So, pick an issue.
Right.
Guns. The liberals are all mad at the NRA
Right.
and at everybody that wants to have 5 guns.
Right.
Right? The conservatives are all mad at Harry Reid and, name for. So all you got to do is get on the side of that, right? Mysticism. So almost everybody actually believes in and wants to believe in magic, secrets, conspiracies against them. Okay? So overweight people are very eager to believe that there is a giant conspiracy out there in the food industry and the media that has been programming them to be uncontrollably fat since they were watching cartoons and eating Lucky Charms when they were 5, and the food is all infused with addictive substances. And obviously, if you're markedly overweight, believing in that mysticism is much more palatable than believing in personal responsibility, right? If you are that dentist who has low net worth and poor income, it's much easier to believe that there's some conspiracy against dentists, et cetera. Or on the other side, to leap at the lure of magic. Okay? So mysticism sells everything from diet pills to handing your money over to Bernie Madoff. So very sophisticated people hand their money over to somebody like Bernie again and again and again, being told you can't understand the model I use to make money.
It's too sophisticated.
It's too sophisticated. It's secret. It's on the floor of the offices we never let anybody go to. It's in the magic cave. And highly sophisticated investors fall for that, just like dumb poor people fall for it. It doesn't matter. It's human nature. So we try and put some mysticism into the formula.
Let me just stop you. I think some people might be watching this right now and thinking, well, this is manipulating people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
Right.
Right? And so everything you do is either successful manipulation or an unsuccessful attempt at manipulation or a surrender to manipulation. So, like it or not, you were manipulated into choosing the suit and shoes you're wearing by some deliberate and intentional forces.
Right.
Now, that might be your spouse, that might be advertising, might be a peer group and what they approve of and don't approve of, but it's all a form of manipulation. The question is not, is your customer going to be affected significantly by psychological manipulation and manipulative forces? That's fact, not question.
Right.
The questions are you going to be on the right side of that cash register? Are you going to deliver good value for the monetary exchange that you create? But if we leave it to fact and basic need, first of all, most people will own very little.
Right.
Because your house is full of stuff you don't need.
Right.
Your car is full of stuff you don't need. I mean, this car's got nothing in it.
Right.
It starts, it runs, it stops. It's got brakes.
You bought this out of a catalog because you wanted it.
I mean, it's got brakes, it's got a gas pedal, but it doesn't have a GPS, and it doesn't have Google, and it doesn't have Facebook, and it doesn't have Pandora, it doesn't have any of that. Right. This is all you need, baby. Right. All that other stuff is optional, right? And you are being manipulated into wanting it.
Well, you were though,
and paying
but
for
just not from a pay manipulation. You wanted it.
Well,
it was the emotional manipulation, right?
Of course, it's exactly.
Because you saw it in the catalog and you wanted it.
Of course.
You ordered socks at the same time, didn't you?
So you can't. Yeah. So you can't shop if your stated ambition is to do extremely well financially. By any means, but particularly through advertising, marketing, and sales. You cannot shy from the issue of manipulation at all. That is it is a word like the word scheme to which people often have a visceral negative reaction to, but by definition, there's really nothing wrong with the word.
Right.
Right? It's a
Right.
synonym for strategy,
Right.
for which nobody has a visceral negative reaction.
Right.
Fifth is revenge,
Okay.
vindication, and redemption. Okay? So again, almost everybody feels they are downtrodden in some way or another. They have been put down, disrespected. You know, there's a big thing going on as we record this. Chicago let Trump build a giant building,
Right.
and they're now shocked that he has put his name on it in giant-sized letters, and everybody is upset about this, you know, and the mayor is upset, and the council is upset, and media is upset, and unflattering comparisons to Trump being like a giant dog peeing to mark his territory on the landscape of. Well, so Trump does that on all his properties. So first of all, it ought not be a big surprise.
Right.
He does it on all his properties, and he does it for practical reasons, advertising, promotion, etc. But there's no doubt Trump has had his entire life, and still does, a bit of a chip on his shoulder about the other old money, traditional real estate developers who at best tolerate him, to do a deal with him, but as soon as he is out of earshot, they are disrespecting him and making fun of him.
Right.
And so, yes, it's motivated as a form of revenge.
Wow.
The best story, because you sell with story, right, on this, I heard I was very young. So this was like standing ovation and people just peeing on themselves. So I was at a big Amway rally, and one of the first award-level Diamond Direct distributors, a guy by the name of Charlie Marsh, 8th grade education, cop, etc. And so Charlie described eloquently the experience that pretty much everybody in the room shared, which is getting in the business, inviting now friends, family members, and relatives to come over for the meeting, and now at 7 o'clock, standing there alone, everybody having disappointed you, and ultimately them refusing and rejecting and making fun of and all that. So now you fast forward to 2 years later, and Charlie has a very substantial income, and he is leaving on the Amway paid for first-class cruise. Right? And so he tells the story of inviting now everybody in his circle of influence that he had invited to all the meetings down to the Bon Voyage party, which they all come to because there's free booze and free food, and everybody's going to gather on the deck and wave him goodbye, which his wave to them is the third finger salute. Now, see, that's a very powerful sales story.
Right.
And Charlie told it for a sales reason.
Right.
It does many of the other
Sure.
that we already talked about. And it gets a visceral reaction, and everybody has in their mind some equivalent of that they'd love to be able to do, right? Mm-hmm. So again, weight loss, when you survey women about weight loss, and there aren't a lot of surveys done with guys because it's a small part of the business. Right. So I'm not necessarily being gender insensitive, but so the surveys of women weight loss buyers, okay, one of the top 5 motives is being seen by ex-husband or boyfriend who dumped me.
Wow.
Now thinner
that's revenge.
And hotter.
Right.
It's this.
It's revenge.
It's
right.
revenge. That's what it is.
And so if you're crafting a
So
message, that should,
it's short of like going over and setting fire to his car.
Right.
Okay, but it's,
Right. Awesome.
Fear and insecurity.
Number 6.
Yeah, number 6, fear and insecurity. So the richest people in the world, the most successful people in the world, the most powerful people in the world still have some insecurity about what it is that they do, who they are, what they look like. They don't know how to dress well. They don't have social graces. They're insecure about something. And it can be broadened from its core. So, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People was really an insecurity play. It is, I really don't know how to make people like me, how to be popular, how to influence people in the workplace, so I stay silent and I sort of hide in the corner behind the potted palm, right? And so I don't care, you can find a billionaire and they're insecure about something, and they're afraid of something, and those things can be broadened. And then last 7 is greed and sloth. Right? So greed never goes out of style. And again, people who should know better, people who have no real need to pile on more money. Martha Stewart, worth a fortune, gets herself in all kinds of trouble over a nickel-dime stock tip, and refusing to reverse it, to get out of trouble. And you can see example after example after example of that. If you watch a week's worth of the show on CNBC called American Greed, I mean, these are good, decent, hardworking, salt of the earth people. There are whole church congregations conned by somebody promising ridiculous investment returns with no explanation really for how we are getting them. There are smart and sophisticated people. Everybody sort of responds to it. Everybody intellectually knows there's no such thing as free, but geez, we want free, and then sloth, that pretty much never goes out of style either. It's a very small percentage of the population that is not somewhat lazy, at least about some things. So when you can incorporate easy into your copy and take away this is going to be hard, it's going to be heavy lifting, there's all of that, and you can put a greed play in there, that you are either securing the bargain of the century, or you are putting yourself in a position where you are going to do infinitely better financially as a result of this thing. So those are the 7. Now the trick is to use as many as you can without one neutering, the other, and get them ranked in the right way for the audience that you are appealing to, and to decide how overt to be versus how subtle to be, sort of how far you go in just smacking somebody in the head with it versus sort of easing it into a message.
Or telling it as part of a story.
Telling it as part of a story, having a testimonial tell it for you. There's devices for this. What did you just see?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. Now, when I heard you at a private seminar, there's a second half to this, but we don't have time to get into it. And we've got examples, but we don't have time to show them. You know why? I think somebody's coming, man.
Well, as soon as you put up cameras.
This is power. Thank you. This is powerful stuff. Stay in character. This is powerful. This is powerful stuff.
Sorry, I forgot we were doing TV.
Yeah, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Then we'll
Stay tuned for our next exciting episode of Make Them Buy Now, where Dan Kennedy will reveal exactly how to create a masterful marketing message so compelling and persuasive that your prospects will be powerless to do anything other than buy now. But first, your mission, should you choose to accept it. Write below what you think the most powerful trigger is, and how are you currently using it, or how are you going to use it.